Welcome to the Energizing India podcast. On this program, we endeavor to give the electric vehicle industry a voice through conversations with the key protagonists and decision makers shaping this sector. Today, we go back to the road and speak with an entrepreneur who has founded a startup that focuses on end-to-end micro-electric mobility through use of data at the same time to augment productivity during the last mile. We speak with Visakh Sasikumar, an entrepreneur with a vision to help make last-mile zero-emission mobility more efficient through complete digitization, mixing tech with execution to allow for rapid scale-up. He is an IIT Madras alumnus and is currently building India's largest vertically integrated electric vehicle ecosystem platform for both last-mile logistics and commute applications. Visakh, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Raven.
Visakh, there are three very interesting startups in the EV sector that came from IIT Madras. There's Ather, Exponent, and your company, Fine. We've had both Tarun from Ather and Arun from Exponent Energy on the show, and it's a pleasure to now host you as well. I know you're friends with both Tarun and Arun, and I think there's some cross-investment in your company as well. But I'm interested to start with by asking you, what is it about IIT Madras that has allowed for three very successful EV startups to be ideated there and then successfully founded by alumni such as you?
So I guess it stems out from the standpoint that IIT Madras is one of the first educational institute which started with EV mobility. Back in 2013, I think Tarun, Arun, and me, all of us were in the same campus, and we got all the needed facilities at the same point when IIT Madras envisioned to look at EV from the standpoint of how it is going to game change in next 10 years. So it was a vision that IIT Madras Research Park and few professors from IIT took over and then passed on to us. Right? So we just took the baton and we just ran.
So is it just the three companies, Exponent, Ather, and Fine that came out of IIT Madras, or are there others? Are there other students who are your contemporaries who today run companies in the electric mobility sector?
Well, I guess there are a lot of other companies that are still coming out as well as still out there in the market, including Ozone Motors, which is building a car, electric cars. There's a company who builds a vehicle for disabled people, Yali Mobility. There are component manufacturers, battery manufacturers, charging station companies. I think that you can get the entire ecosystem, EV ecosystem in IIT Madras campus. So I think that has been the beauty of building the center of excellence first, rather than just saying that we'll do an incubator, right?
So let's dwell on that subject for just one more question, Visakh, if you don't mind. Tarun founded Ather and went off to do some very amazing things with two-wheeler scooter electric mobility. Arun was part of that journey, first in Ather, and then founded Exponent Energy, which was to look at, not just making batteries, but also finding a way to charge those batteries efficiently and safely in a very fast manner, not being done anywhere else in the world. And you've gone in a third different direction, which is about using data for last mile logistics. You talked about a pivot before. So let's talk about what is this direction that you started with and you pivoted to ending up where you are today?
See, when I started off, the vision was to build electric vehicles, similar to what Tarun had, but in B2B space. Tarun was always focused on B2C. So my focus was on B2B logistics. And failures was the initial way of success for us. So then we decided that, okay, let's look at market rather than just a product. And we thought one product company is very hard to succeed. This was more of a logistics vehicle. And then we decided that for the logistics market, we figured out a lot more types of vehicles are required. Why don't we build a portfolio of products to ensure that we serve all the players who are there in the logistics market? So that was the thought process. So we built our second product called PIMO, which was launched by Indian cricketer 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐭 in IIT Madras Research Park. So we were in the moon because we got two products, certified products, and we started selling it on the market. But technically, we sold close to 1,000 vehicles just before COVID. So our pivot is a life before COVID and after COVID. And just before COVID, we are scaling up the number of vehicles that we are selling. And we have, just after the launch of two-wheeler, we got the first 300 vehicle ka order. We started delivering the product. We had a huge order for our electric three-wheeler also. But the life changed overnight. 23rd March 2020, when lockdown was announced, we had vehicles with us which was built, which we were supposed to deliver to the clients. But we couldn't even move out of the factory because the lockdown was announced. How do we come out of this situation? This was a life and death situation for us. And during this scale up, we were also trying to raise funds. Because of COVID, some of the investors said they wanted to wait. So normally when investors say we have to wait, it means they are not coming back. And so in next 4-5 days, we just took a decision that only a startup could make, right? Pivot from the current business model that you are into a new business model in 5 days. Nobody have heard about it. Our investors panicked. We had to convince them. They said, what are you pivoting towards? So in the meetings, what we were saying is we are pivoting towards a EV as a service company. We have vehicles. Let's do service based on these vehicles. So then the obvious question was, you are a team of design engineers who have built vehicles for logistics. Now you're saying you're going to do operations with it and you're taking away your manufacturing from it. There is zero experience in operations. How can you even think about going into a service ops model? So we said, give us 1 month. Let's prove this model and see if this can go to a bigger level. Right? So we went ahead and tried out this business model, and I would say a candid story. The first way in which we started this business model was from where I live, from my apartment. Next day morning, I get 120 people from out of 200 apartments wanting something to buy. So me and my business guy went to the factory, took the vehicle, which was pedal assisted three-wheeler. We went to grocery stores. We got groceries for around 20 apartments, came back, delivered. In the meantime, we connected with a lot of gig workers. We understood that there is zero loyalty in this market. If you pay 100 rupees more, they were ready to come and work with us. In 1 month, we scaled from 1 apartment to 10 apartments. And the funny part was we started delivering to IIT Madras campus. Right? So I used to personally deliver groceries to IIT Madras campus, and professors used to ask, I thought you were building EVs, now you are doing delivery job. So we said, why don't we think completely out of the box? Let's say manufacturing is a headache. Let's not do manufacturing. Let's even go vehicle agnostic. Because if we say we'll put only our vehicle on the fleet, it constrains our capacity to scale. So then it got us into the biggest problem. The market or the industry is completely traditional. There is no digitization that has happened, even though we say EV tech has come in and charging tech has come in, but there's no digitization. So you can't have a new tech and a bad way of executing. So then we decided, okay, we will come to a stage where our business model is simple. We build India's largest stakeholder ecosystem platform, bring all stakeholders to one platform. We understand the tech. So whenever there is a new tech coming into a fleet, we will be the front runners to adopt that tech and bet on that tech. That is what we did with Xponent as well. So all came together, and we once we got this business model running, initially all the VCs had this trouble. Can you do everything together? So we scaled up. We showed few VCs, and then we raised some funds for that. And now we are scaling month on month. Our growth rate is so large that everyone is interested to look at us. It didn't happen overnight.
If I've understood correctly, then today Fine is not a manufacturer of electric vehicles. You're a last mile service provider, but your secret sauce or your superpower is the fact that you use a lot of data and are data driven in how you manage that last mile.
Yes, and one more major differentiation is our philosophy or the way we see our vision. So we don't want more vehicles on the ground. We are sure that more number of vehicles is not the scale. So we came from the school of thought that we need to cross-utilize these EVs. The EVs should run for minimum 20 hours. So people laughed at us, as usually they do, saying that no EV can run for 20 hours and be sustainable. Okay, no EV can actually function for 20 hours. Because they said charging was 6 hours. Then we found Xponent. Xponent said, I'll give you 15-minute charging and I'll give you 5-year warranty on battery. It's basically a bunch of people who no one believed has done something remarkable from exponent standpoint. We understood their tech right from the moment Arun started working on it. So that's the beauty of a company who understands tech.
Super. So you are running a fleet of Xponent Energy and Ultigreen three-wheelers at the moment?
Yes. So we have multiple types of vehicles. We have two-wheelers. We have our own two-wheeler coming into the fleet called Fine Jet. We have Hero vehicles. We have TVS vehicles. Hopefully Ather vehicles as well.
Okay, so you've got a mix of two and three-wheel transport.
Three-wheelers, and we are getting into four-wheelers as well. So one thing is we'll be the company who has the widest portfolio of EVs, so that a customer who needs three-wheeler and two-wheeler need not look for two different people. We are there, and then along with the tech platform, we are there to support them.
Okay, so talk me through how is the tech platform enabling you to be different from other last mile service providers? Because there's, you do an internet search and there's 40 or 50 people who claim to be electric mobility last mile logistic service providers in India today. I mean, Corona, the lockdowns created that pivot, didn't it? And there's a few charging companies that have decided they want to be last mile delivery companies. So how is data enabling you in a way that they are not?
Yeah. So just imagine that everyone, including a client like an Amazon, a financier who wants to fund these EVs, let's assume an OEM like an Ultigreen, tech player like Xponent, then we have driver partners, all in the same platform. And there is only one vision of the platform, that make the EV deployment hassle-free without any frictions. So Amazon wants to place orders, or a Flipkart wants to place orders, and the deployment has to happen in a stipulated particular time. Okay? So currently, if you do manual way of getting the financier, talking to the financier, talking to OEM for the vehicles, and getting the drivers on board, you don't have the visibility of overall timeline in which you can actually deploy. So the clients usually believe that by this day, the vendor will give them 100 vehicles, but unfortunately, only 60 of them gets fulfilled. For 40, they'll have to go for ad hoc vehicles, which will increase the last mile logistics cost. And if it takes 60 days, for 60 days, look at the wastage of manpower. The client side, everyone will be working on getting these vehicles on board. A service provider will have to work 60 days. Financier is involved for that 60 days. OEM is involved for 60 days. Overall, the ecosystem is losing money. Okay? When we have a stakeholder platform, what we are trying to do is bring all stakeholders together, give real-time, transparent information to all stakeholders. For them, it is just like a courier delivery. Like if a Blue Dart courier gets delivered to you, you don't have to take any pay. You'll have to just make the payment. Then you'll get a milestone-based timeline saying that, okay, it has reached the hub, it is at this location right now, and it will get delivered by this day. Same visibility we are able to give to these players through the platform. And the biggest part is our engine is the operations piece. So our entire operations is automated in such a way that from the moment a driver gets onboarded, it comes through an app, KYC is done, the driver comes into the platform, the vehicle is already there, the vehicle opportunity and the driver is getting married in the platform, right? And the locations, the geo fencing, everything is automated in this, so that the vehicle is kept ready for cross utilization, right? So this platform makes it so hassle-free that we don't even talk about the logistics that is done today. We say we want to redefine. So our fine word also comes from that standpoint, that we want to redefine the logistics the way it is done right now.
So how do you measure success on your platform? Uber would measure the number of taxis or the number of successful transactions in a day or rides in a day. Make My Trip would measure how many tickets were sold and not refunded. What are the metrics you're measuring? Because you have a complex value chain within yourselves. You've got finished goods from OEMs, but you've got rides, you've got bookings for deliveries. You've got so much going on.
So we look at two things. One is utilization. Second one is money, revenue. We look at daily billing. So compared to others who look at saying that, okay, if I deploy a vehicle for 10 hours, my vehicle is 100% utilization. For us, that is only 50% utilization. So from that standpoint, my driving force is always the team has to go towards our 100%, which is 20 hours. And we need to ensure that daily billing picks up every day. So with the same number of vehicles, how do you increase the revenue and increase the margin? And how do we give a better pricing to our end customers? See, there's a lot of data. What you can do is you can see, why does a Uber or a Ola bring in search pricing? Because they have the data that people like us are desperate when a rain comes. We are ready to pay 2x, 3x, right? But at the same time, it can be used for a good cause. Saying that if you have the data of saying that if you load, say, 100 kgs in a two-wheeler and run, the vehicle will not sustain for 2 years or 3 years. Okay, so it will go down in 2 years. So you can go to the client and say, if it goes in 2 years and you are happy with our SLAs, and we go down in 2 years, that means our business gets affected. Then your business will get in turn affected. Instead of it, we will guarantee you zero downtime, but give us little more money. It is far better than having a brand image problem later for both of us. Right? So this is the way we negotiate with data. For a company who uses say 20 kg load, let's say Swiggy, we can say you are not putting a lot of pressure on our vehicle. We can give you a better pricing. So differential pricing can be done only if you have data. So the platform is the base for it.
So you own your fleet today, as well as you allow people who own fleets to book on your platform?
No, we don't own our fleet. It's all on operation lease model. Okay. So it's not on our books, and we sign agreements with larger players, including e-commerce, food and beverage, traditional logistics companies also sign with us, so that we place the vehicle. So we take care of the entire logistics part. So we take care of the entire responsibility, along with driver. Delivery is also our responsibility.
So let's talk about your funding journey then. How much has Finn raised so far? Actually, first up, how long since you've been incorporated, and how much have you raised so far?
So commercial journey started in 16-17. We have been a company who is very frugal in fundraising, as well as using that funds to a good effect. So we always had this idea that it's not about fundraising, it's more about showing your mettle to the world that, okay, with lower funds also you can function, right? So then larger funds will take you to the larger scale. So you need to build the base strong, not with funds, with your capability of ensuring that you can survive through any situations, right? So we have raised 3 million till now. Out of that, 1.7 million came for this business model, which was just 1 year back. So 1 year back, when we were raising funds, we were doing maybe 10-15 vehicles. Now we are almost at, I would say, around 50x of that in less than a year. And the revenues have grown, the team has grown.
So I guess for your growth, you're looking for further investments now. You're doing investor calls. So there's people who are interested in your business. Where do you see Fine 5 years from today? What's the out? Are you going to do an IPO? Is this a global IPO? Are you going to be doing the same business model in other countries, for example, Indonesia or Malaysia or parts of Africa? What is your vision for the company, and what's the out for your investors?
Where I wanted to reach, right? So if you ask me the ultimate goal of Fine, it is not thinking from, the philosophy is not IPO or growing to that level. The impact that we wanted to create overall is to ensure that in 5 years, Fine becomes a synonym for logistics, right? Everything that happens in logistics has to go through either Fine platform or through our vehicles or our services. So there are two ways. Either you become controllable or you control, right? So that's the only way to win in the market. So we have taken the bet that we will wait for some time. We'll build tech looking at 5 years down the line. See, our platform is so scalable that in future, anyone who wants to deploy vehicles has to go through us. The vision that I've told you in this podcast is just maybe I would say 10% of what we have thought through. The 90% is yet to come. So when the 90% comes in 5 years, we will see that even if my competitors deploy vehicles, Fine will get benefited because we have created the largest ecosystem there.
I'm smiling because I'm hoping that the big oligarchs of India are listening to that statement from you, because this is a philosophy I wish everybody had.
So I think we have. You asked about Exponent. So we came with Exponent, Alt Mobility, who was funded as Altigreen, who has come with us. 4 of us came together. This is the first time in the industry that 4 different companies come together and then say like synchronously worked and then announced something, right? This is majorly because of, we were able to bring all the 4 philosophies together, and now all 4 of us are actually preaching the same thing. We are trying to build the ecosystem. We want to be strong in each one's area, and at the same time, Fine is trying to collaborate everything and then bring everyone together. So it's more than competition. We believe in collaboration. So we don't see anyone as a competitor yet, because we see that anyone, and this market is so huge that you don't waste time in fighting with others. You go get your piece first and then figure out.
So let me ask that question a different way then, Visakh. Where do you see the last mile logistics sector in 5 years? What is the evolution that's going to happen, over the next 5 years?
See, from the tech standpoint, you will see a lot of changes. We really don't think even lithium tech will sustain for 5 years, because fuel cell tech is fast moving. Hydrogen is getting a huge push. Drones have come into logistics, last mile logistics. You have seen some companies coming up with flying taxis, which can be in the commute segment. See, the idea is technology is going to change drastically in the next 5 years. We are going to see the digitization coming into effect, that most of the players who are manually deploying won't be there in next 5 years. You need to play the game. It's like whatever changes that is coming, you have to embrace the change. And we will see a logistics industry where, you have talked about, we have seen about 10-minute delivery, right? It's not about time. It's more about SLAs. It's more about customer satisfaction. I think in next 5 years, the entire industry will evolve towards how do we even don't think about logistics, right? Right now, you think about logistics, your head pains, saying, okay, it's huge, operations heavy, right? What all things, lot of things moving. So the success of logistics industry is in next 5 years, we don't have to have this conversation, right? There's nothing to be afraid about in logistics. Everything is smooth. Everything happens digitally. You place an order, you don't have a worry that even say 1 day delay will be there. Everything is deployed to you.
If what you are talking about is achieved, which is the pain goes out of the process and it becomes streamlined, then that sector is usually ripe for consolidation, which means that only 1 or 2 companies will end up doing everything, much like the airline sector in India today, for example.
What we have seen is in manufacturing segment, there are a lot of players who's holding marginal market shares, say 7%, 8% market shares. Since EV as a service, people are consolidating everything together. There is a possibility. So there are in Shenzhen and all, there are 2-3 major companies who operate and lease these vehicles, which holds more than 30-35%. That means 2-3 big players have emerged. So this is a thesis which is happening across, say, different parts of the world. If you mentioned about Malaysia and Southeast Asia especially, this will work out beautifully there, and same in India as well. So what we feel is there'll be a lot of consolidation, and people who are not looking at profit margins now will find it difficult to sustain when they scale, because a lot of money gets blocked. It's not a simple game. If you look at deploying 1,000 vehicles, even through operation lease model, you have to pay a security deposit, you have to pay lease monthly back to them. That means you have to make operations margin. It's a high intensity game. If you don't have tech and math properly done, you're just going for scale, in for a disaster.
So what reform would you like to see from government to help your sector achieve the sorts of growth that you aspire to?
So I think to give a drastic push to this logistics market, EV side, GST is one particular thing I would say. For a service, if the GST is reduced for EVs, it will give a push.
Excellent. So last question then, Visakh. And we ask this question to all the talent that comes on our show. And I apologize for the very frivolous nature of this question, but it gets usually a very clear answer. And the question is this: if you had the opportunity to be the Prime Minister of India for just one day, and you could do anything you wanted to ensure that there was faster adoption of electric vehicles and electric mobility in India, what would that decision be?
If I am the Prime Minister, first thing I'll do is, anyway, it's only one day for me. So that one day I will ensure that all the IC engine vehicles are banned, right? So that, and give the right push towards manufacturing EVs. See, now the scale is not something that we are fearing about. Ola is there, Ather is there. Many players have come in who can build vehicles on scale. And how do they reach the scale? They need to get the demand also pushed up. So if demand is there, how do you get the demand? If you don't have an ability to go and buy an IC engine vehicle, there's only one option, that is go and buy electric. So demand is already created with that decision itself. Now you need to go back to all these players and say, so now all these players who are sticking on to IC engine vehicles also will have to go and do EVs. Everyone has the capability to do it, but people don't want to change. How do we make people change? Put them in a difficult situation, right? So stir the water. That's what I would say.
Excellent answer, Visakh. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on our program. Thank you for making the time to be on Energizing India. Good luck with your fundraise and the future growth. And we look forward to having you back on the show in the near future again.
Thanks, Ravin. I think next time when we speak, I think we will have a lot more stories to tell about EV industry.
Absolutely.